because like there's no way that I'm gonna know how to coherently describe this writing style. It's really hitting the deep darkness inside me. Today is a very exciting day because it is Stuff Your Kindle Day. What genre even is this? YA like gothic-y fantasy type stuff? I am just in my historical fantasy mood and none of these books are on my July TBR, so we are full mood reading at this point in time and loving every second of it. It has been a week since I vlogged last and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm also having a lot of trouble deciding what I want to read. What genre even is this? YA like gothic-y fantasy type stuff. So I'll give you examples of what I mean, that would be helpful. So I think I'm gonna start off with The Poison Season by Mara Rutherford. This is about our main character who lives in this poisonous forest. And the forest and the lake that she lives around or near in, whatever, doesn't take kindly to outsiders. Anyone who lives in her like society or like little village in the woods that doesn't develop this natural type of magic, the forest like rejects, it sounds like. So she's worried about her brother because he still hasn't developed this type of magic that he needs to continue living in this society. The other book that I have, sorry I'm just like all over the place. I was getting ready to go to the pool and I was like, you know what, morning reading by the pool, we need to start a weekly reading vlog because it's also Monday. This has kind of been my morning routine since I've got back from traveling last week. Our pool finally opened and every morning I just try to go and like get some sunshine, live my best lizard life, read a little bit, and I find that it does wonders for my mental health to just like be outside for a little while. The other book that I have that kind of falls in this, what I'm classifying as like the same genre or category, is The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. The Last Heir to Blackwood Library is kind of a historical YA paranormal fantasy. I have one more and I can't think of the name of it, but I'm hoping that throughout this week some beautiful gorgeous angels return their holds early on Libby so I get a couple more books to add to my TBR for this week. But I'm gonna start off with those two and I hope you're excited. If you are, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and we're gonna walk Mr. Jameson's and then we're gonna go down to the pool. It's a little later, we're back upstairs unfortunately, but we spent 2 hours at the pool. I ended up sticking with The Poison Season while I was down there, so I'm now 15% of the way through. I'm on page 60, chapter 8. I ended up finding the audiobook and I was just mostly listening to it while I was down there. I'm not sure how I feel about it so far, mostly because it's really reminding me of Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw, which I didn't love. So it starts off, we're in the winter, we're in this wandering forest, which I love that they call it that, which is very deadly to any outsiders who basically don't have magic, and either within their society or on their 12th birthday, if they still haven't developed their magical capabilities, they banish them essentially to live off of the island. Lilo and her friend Sage, they just turned 17 and they became watchers, and they're supposed to protect their island and watch for outsiders that are trying to come across the lake. I guess I'm not super in love with the world. I think that the society that she lives in has a lot of very outdated rules. Like, girls are expected, you know, once they become watchers, they're considered adults and they're 17 and they're expected to start like having children very soon and figuring all of that out. And then this one girl who is also a watcher and their friend got caught with an outsider. She was having a scandalous interaction, we'll say. She gets caught. They end up killing her outsider lover. They say, we will leave you to the forest or we'll leave you to the lake. And they called it a drowning. And he had the chance to like get across the lake, but the lake is poisonous, so he died. It doesn't feel like gothic and high stakes to me. It feels icky. I'm gonna keep reading a little bit more and see if I can get more into it, because Lilo doesn't agree with her society. I think she's starting to realize that she doesn't really agree with these rules. So I'm interested to see how that plays out, but overall I'm not like in love. Morning besties, happy Tuesday. I have a couple of reading updates. So I've listened up to 40% in the Poison season, and I'm just like really not loving it, which is sad, but the plot feels very simple, and I can't imagine that there's going to be like some big massive twists. It just seems very, very see-through, and so I'm really torn of whether I want to continue with this book or not, which is so sad because the writing style is simple too. I think that Mara Rutherford really improved with A Multitude of Dreams, because that is her newest release that's getting published in October. I just can't imagine myself listening to the rest of this book and enjoying it. So that's big sad. But I have read about 5%. I think I only read the first chapter so far of The Last Heir of Blackwood Manor, and I'm like already absolutely loving it. The atmosphere of that book is, I think I mentioned, it takes place just after World War I. In the prologue of the book, we were all the way back in the early 1300s. So we got to learn a little bit of the history of what they were calling Blackwood Abbey. From the 1300s, it's obviously a very old, very historical. It has some religious ties to it because it used to be an abbey. And then in chapter 1, we got to meet our main character, Ivy, who is the last heir of Blackwood Library. I'm very curious to hear the transition from abbey to library. She and her family have been always living like paycheck to paycheck. It talks about how since the boys came back home from the war, there's no longer any jobs for women. She kind of touches on, you know, women did our part when the boys were away fighting, but now that they're back, the expectation for a woman is to find a husband. It's kind of giving vibes of The Haunting of Hill House. Very old, massive, expansive property with like no neighbors surrounding it, just an old creepy house. The other book that I actually have right now is called Funeral Songs for Dying Girls by Sherry Dimeline. I think that it's been published fairly recently. It's a very short book. It's only 250 pages-ish, but it's about a haunted cemetery and a teen befriends a ghost in this brand new young adult novel exploring Indigenous identity from the critically acclaimed and best-selling author of the Marrow Thieves series. I'm not familiar with that series, but that really intrigued me, just that setup, and I also love that it also explores Indigenous identity. So I think it gives similar kind of like dark, ominous vibes because we're talking about a teen who's befriending a ghost in a cemetery. That sounds so amazing. So I think I might pick up Funeral Songs for Dying Girls and see what that is all about while I'm reading Blackwood Library. You to hold me accountable today that I'm actually going to read more of Blackwood Library. So yesterday I found this new game on my Switch. It's called Lemon Cake, and it is the cutest, coziest game ever. I saw Claire Siobhan on YouTube playing it. It was like a really old stream, but I was like, stop, that looks so cute. You're basically this little person. You find this old bakery that's haunted by a ghost, and you're helping our little ghosty girly like rebuild her bakery. I fell down an absolute black hole. It was so funny. Ross came home last night and he was like, how long have you been playing this? And I was like, honestly, hours.
And I can't stop myself.
So Love that. That was absolutely self-sabotaging behavior because I had every good intention to read my book. But today we're going to read, I promise. I actually got the audiobook for Funeral Songs for Dying Girls. I'm going to listen to that a bit while I'm working today. I'm excited to get back to Blackwood Library. I was just on something else yesterday. Okay, this is live reaction because I'm absolutely losing my mind. I just started listening to this audiobook, Funeral Songs for Dying Girls. This writing style is one of the best things I've ever listened to. And now I'm like stressed because it's one of those writing styles. Yes, I just moved you over here so that you can't see the clutter that is my fiance's nightstand. This writing style is a writing style that I want to highlight and annotate every single word. I need to read you some excerpts because like there's no way that I'm gonna know how to coherently describe this writing style. I'm losing my freaking mind. There's a film company whose logo comes on before the movie starts. It's a boy sitting in a crescent moon fishing the sky. That's the closest thing I can think of to explain how I feel in the attic, sitting at the window watching the fog roll or the leaves fall or the snow chase itself around the gravestones in the cemetery below. Okay. If my mother were to haunt, the most suitable thing here, it would be those quiet divots between the songs on her records, sending Morse code messages in the cracks and pops of the speaker. I'm unwell. And then the last one. They live in a cemetery. They live in an apartment just above her father's like administrative business building. We'd lived there since before I have memories, when my dad decided a cemetery was the only place he could be, not willing to really live but unable to die because he was all I had. This book is so emotional and sad, like it's really hitting the deep darkness inside me, but also this is one of the most beautiful writing styles. 20% into Funeral Songs for Dying Girls and I have lots of thoughts. So still absolutely loving the writing style. This book is really reminding me of All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir because it's giving character study in the best way. So we follow our main character, I think her name is Winnie, like Winifred, because it's in her POV so you don't hear her name very often. It's just so relatable. Like she's in high school, she's kind of the outcast, she's the girl that lives in the cemetery, she's very open about her mom's death and about like her and her dad's dynamic now, about how he just continuously has been mourning his wife ever since she passed away, giving birth to our main character. So she has a lot of trauma. If you like very character-driven stories, I think that you would really like this book. And if you're looking for something that's more macabre, our main character has started these rumors that the cemetery is haunted, but I think where it's going is we're gonna find out that the cemetery like is actually haunted. So it fits in with the creepy vibes, you know, the creepy spookies. It definitely fits those. And it's so funny. They were dog sitting for this dog whose name was Mrs. Dingleberry and I was absolutely losing it, like smiling to myself while I'm working. I love this author. She's done such a great job so far. Good morning, besties. Happy Friday. Today is a very exciting day because it is Stuff Your Kindle Day. So Kindle has a bunch of free ebooks today. So that's what I've just been perusing. That's such a weird word, perusing. I'm going to continue this. I will give an update about what I continue to download to my Kindle. Hopefully it has some rhyme and rhythm to it, but honestly, if they're free and it has a pretty cover, I'm gonna be downloaded it. And I don't have too many reading updates. I've read a little bit more of Blackwood Library. I've just shortened that title in this vlog because that title is so long and I just can't be bothered to say all of it anymore, but hopefully you know which book I'm talking about. I'm still really enjoying it. I am now 35% of the way through it. Today the goal is to finish some books. We are going to finish Funeral Songs for Dying Girls because that book I am about halfway through. I haven't finished a book yet this week, which is so annoying in my brain. I'm very unhappy. I'm gonna finish Blackwood Library today, and then I had another book. Oh, I have The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry. I'm hoping to start that today. This is a book that was blurbed by Alex Harrow, who I absolutely love. I love her writing style. She's one of my favorite, almost like purple prose, super descriptive authors. And so the fact that she blurbed it, I'm like, perfection. This book, The Magician's Daughter, also takes place in the 1900s, so it's kind of giving similar vibes to Blackwood Library, where that book has just been speaking to my soul. I'm like, maybe I need to just stick with this type of aesthetic and vibe. So early 1900s, a woman is caught between two worlds in H.G. Perry's cozy tale of magic, miracles, and an adventure of a lifetime. Off the coast of Ireland sits a legendary island hidden by magic, a place of ruins and ancient trees, sea salt air, and fairy love. High Brazil is the only home Biddy has ever known. I love that her name is Biddy. Washed up on its shore as a baby, Biddy lives a quiet life with her guardian, the mercurial magician Rowan, a life she finds increasingly stifling. One night, Rowan fails to return from his mysterious travels, and to find him, Biddy must venture into the outside world for the first time. It sounds whimsical in all of the best ways. Hi besties, don't mind the Martha Washington heatless curl hair. I came back upstairs, had lunch, showered, and then between the pool and the gym, my hair just needed to be sorted out. I'm doing sprints in like 30 minutes with Hannah on her channel because today is the last day of Once Upon a Readathon. I read a lot more of Blackwood Manor, so I think I only have less than 2 hours left in the book according to my Kindle. Kind of messing with the reader's mind because our main character, it's questionable about whether she is a reliable main character or not, which I love. That's one of my favorite elements to really build suspense. I love the atmosphere of this book. This would be a really good book for Summerween if you're looking for something that's creepy and gothic. It's not spooky scary, like it's not a horror book by any means. Also, in an unplanned twist of events, my hold for the London Seance Society came in today. Now I'm debating, do we read the London Seance Society or do we stick with The Magician's Daughter? I don't know. I feel like London Seance Society is gonna have more similar vibes to Blackwood Library, but I'm excited for them both. I'm just ready for spooky season. Like now that Once Upon a Readathon is almost over, I'm like, yep, give me all the spooky books, please. That's what we are going to be reading in July. I have gotten a little bit farther as well into Funeral Songs for Dying Girls. We've met our little ghosty girlfriend. We're trying to figure out what's going on with her. I think that the storytelling in this book is so good, meaning the characters themselves go on these monologues to tell their backstory. We've gotten one monologue from our ghosty girl, and her name is Phil, and we love Phil. And Winifred, who is our main character in this book, it's her stream of consciousness, and she's just so relatable, so funny. I love the way this author is basically doing like character studies. Funeral Songs for Dying Girls is a coming of age story. Also, it has some sapphic moments. So we have some LGBTQ plus representation in this book, and I just think it's done in a heartbreakingly incredible way. At least what we've gotten so far. Hello my friends, apologies that I have not done a check-in at all for Saturday. It is now 10, maybe 10:30 at night. So this is my final check-in for this vlog. Today we went plant shopping. We wanted to get some low light plants for our apartment because I love plants, but we get zero direct sunlight. So we got a couple new plant babies, and going plant shopping is like going to the bookstore for me. I just literally love it so much, and I'm so happy to have some new plant babies in our apartment. But I have some final reading updates. Yesterday, I finished Blackwood Library. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it so much. I ended up creating a bookshelf on my Goodreads for historical fantasies. Some of them lean more gothic because Blackwood Library to me was so similar in writing style to Anatomy of Love Story by Dana Schwartz, A Multitude of Dreams by Mara Rutherford. I'm gonna continue adding to that bookshelf because I just love historical fantasy so much. Once and Future Witches is on there too. The other book that I started and I haven't had a chance to talk about with y'all is The Magician's Daughter. So I'm 10% of the way in. So right at the very beginning, I think I've only read the first 2 or 3 chapters. Obsessed. I ended up ordering the physical book for it because I just need a physical copy. I think I'm going to tab and annotate it. I'm loving the vibes. It is another historical fantasy, but it's much more whimsical instead of like gothic. I am just in my historical fantasy mood, and none of these books are on my July TBR, so we are full mood reading at this point in time and loving every second of it. The Magician's Daughter is much more whimsical. It's giving Howl's Moving Castle vibes. So Biddy lives on this very secluded island that is protected by magic. She lives with a magician named Rowan, who is her guardian. He turns into a raven every single night and he flies off of the island, and she's starting to ask him, hey, like, why can't I go with you? I also want to go off the island. And he's like, it's not safe. One day he comes back and he's like injured. He has like a cut on his face, and she's like, Bestie, what's going on? And he's like, don't worry about it, I'm fine. And then the next night he doesn't come back and he's in danger, and Biddy has to try to save him and figure out what's going on. Where he turns into a raven and he like flies off every night, and he is just this magical being. I'm like, okay, Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, yes, absolutely. Howl also has a familiar that is this black rabbit. I think his name is Hutchinson, but they call him Hutch. Hopefully I remember that correctly. And it kind of reminds me also of Calcifer in Howl's Moving Castle. And then the other book that I finished that I need to adjust my rating for, Funeral Songs for Dying Girls. So finished it. On Goodreads I gave it a 3 star. I need to, and I gave it like 3.5. I need to upgrade it to a 4 star because the writing style is perfection. The way that it just broke my heart and had me screaming at the same time. Our 2 girlies that we're following are Ghost Girly Phil and our alive girly Winifred. Both of them are kind of loners. They have to deal with a lot of very difficult emotions, situations, experiences without support from friends or family. Winifred is absolutely in like survival mode. She's had a lot of trauma in her life. Her father is also going through his own emotional stuff. And then her relationship with Phil, her like friendship with Phil, they're kind of like trauma bonding. They're just sharing these horrible, awful experiences that no one should have to experience. They're sharing them and relating to each other in a very beautiful but also a very heartbreaking way. It's a very emotional read, but highly, highly recommend it if you like contemporary coming of age stories. The one issue that I have on Goodreads is it is labeled as a YA fantasy. This book is not a fantasy at all, and I think that that was confusing for me going into it because it's absolutely a contemporary fiction, contemporary YA fiction. It does have that paranormal element to it, but that's the only thing that makes it like even relatively fantastical, and even then I would not classify it as a fantasy. But that is it, my friends. I'm going to love you and leave you here. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.